Hi, folks. Welcome to this special program tonight. I'm very grateful for all of you to be here. This is a really important conversation, and even when I'm right now a little bit under the weather with a bad case of sinus, I would not miss this conversation for anything in the world, and I appreciate you all for being here as well. Um, my name is Alfonso Saldaña. I am one of Women's national co-directors. I am located in Brownsville, Texas, which is the ancestral lands of the Carrizo Comecrudo tribe. And I just wanted to start there intentionally because land sovereignty and self-determination are not abstract ideas. They're ongoing struggles here and across the world, and that includes Iran. And there is a lot of noise right now, escalation, headlines, narratives that push us towards seeing entire nations as threats. So tonight, we're doing something different. We are slowing down and we are creating a space to understand and not just react. At Mutual Man, we often say that what we are facing isn't just a series of bad decisions. It's in reality a system that produces those decisions. A system where concentrated power, especially corporate power, shapes both what happens within our borders and how we act beyond them. And what gets framed as conflict or foreign policy is often deeply connected to economic interests, political incentives, and structures that benefit from this instability. And that's why this conversation matters a lot, because if we don't understand the system, we end up reacting to the symptoms instead of addressing the root causes. Too often, conversations about Iran happen without Iranian voices or reduce millions of people to a headline or through a make-believe thread or a geopolitical talking point. So tonight, we are here to listen to a perspective grounded in history, lived experience, and deep commitment to peace. At this point, I would also like to introduce Janie Spanos, who is going to be doing the honor of introducing Moji Agha. And Jeannie is also a national co-director, but I'll let her do her own introduction. Let me remove my spotlight and switch to you, Jeannie, if you don't mind.
Thank you. Um, Hi, my name is Jenny Spanos. I'm a national co-director with the Women's Coalition as well. I came to this work through an environmental lens. I was a journalist covering the oil spill when the Citizen United immediately followed after that. So that's the devastation that wreaked and the no accountability that rendered. He kind of sent me into a dark spot, I guess, and I was wondering what's going on with our country. And then Citizens United came out. I connected with Move to Amend. They were getting at the roots of the problems. So it's an honor to be here with you all. And also to be joined by Brother Moji. He's a Sufi monk, peace and human rights activist, and a founder of the Peace and Truth Heals Initiative, as well as other things. Brother Moji's work sits at the heart of what we care deeply about at Move to America: healing our democracy, reclaiming power for people and planet, and building culture rooted in truth, injustice, and interconnection. Welcome, Brother Moji. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much. And so I believe you have some kind of a clip of me talking at No Kings 3. Is that something that you want to begin with?
Yep, let me play that video for folks.
Wonderful. This is last Saturday.
And in our world, it is my honor to invite to the microphone Moji Agha, who is from Iran and going to speak as an Iranian peace activist. Use that one. Don't touch it. Just use it.
Hello, Longmont. Hello, we the people.
I'm not seeing the video. Is that just me?
Oh, my bad. Sorry. Sorry, the wrong screen.
Sufi Muslim, peace, democracy, human rights and Mother Earth rights. Month. Hello, we the people. My name is Moji Agha. I am an Iranian-American Sufi Muslim, peace, democracy, human rights, and Mother Earth activist. I'm an associate member of Veterans for Peace. I am the founder of Peace-Seeking Iranian Veterans and our new project called National Peace and Democracy Coalition of Iran. Thank you. I am here to tell you about a legacy of the late Dr. Mohammad Mossadegh of Iran, whose secular democratic government was overthrown in the 1953 coup by the CIA and MI6. And he said, and I have only 3 minutes, I've been told. He said, internal despotism and external colonialism are two sides of the same coin. Oh. And so the two, internal despotism and external colonialism, are in a much more toxic interrelationship and codependence when they need one another as enemy. I want, as an human being, Iranian, Sufi, peace activist, I do not like the word enemy. I want it to go out of our consciousness. The translation of internal despotism and external colonialism, which forms the basis of the National Peace and Democracy Coalition of Iran, the translation of it in the United States is internal repression and external aggression are two sides of the same coin. So, are you ready to practice a chant? Yes. Okay. No internal repression.
Thank you, Alfonso. And thank you for being here. I know you're sick, and that's, you know, I just really appreciate you still coming in and helping take care of tech and all that. Brother Moji, move to amend challenges corporate rule and the idea that money equals speech. And I know you've been a longtime supporter and advocate for the We the People Amendment. And at the same time, your PATH initiative, for example, has us look at democracy as something deeply human and spiritual, something that starts from within. How do you see this connection between democratic renewal and the healing of people in the communities?
Wow. How many hours do you have for me to give a deep, considered lecture? So first of all, thank you. And the chant that I practiced with about, well, there was 2,000 people that at least I could hear my voice, and they were repeating those chants. But the chant I practiced was no internal repression, no external aggression, no kings, no kings. And the other, you see in behind me, the USA Loves Iran sign. I had that sign, so I turned it, as opposed to being a sentence that says USA loves Iran, I turned it into a demand. And I practice with folks the chant, USA love Iran, USA love peace. And we, the people, need to be demanding that USA would love democracy, and therefore move to amend so that the toxic, horrible presence of corporations and corporate private profit does not corrupt the foundations of the right to vote and all the other rights that in the Constitution are supposed to belong to we the people. So the answer to your mostly philosophical question is summarized in, as I said, in the little mini speech, is that internal despotism and external colonialism are two sides of the same coin, in the same way that democracy and nonviolence and peace are two sides of the same coin. On the other side, selfishness of corporate profit and the savagery of militarism are the two sides of the coin of barbarism, which we are witnessing in this country. And the No Kings demonstration, and we had about 4,000 people in a relatively tiny city called Longmont, Colorado. And so to me, when selfishness in the larger sense of corporate profit, human ego, and I'm here talking about as a Sufi, when human ego and the selfishness that emanates from its narrow-minded, um, you know, short-term gain, it by definition destroys democracy, because democracy is nonviolent by nature. The right to vote, real right to vote, as opposed to the superficial superstructure of it that we have in this country, except it is mostly empty of meaning, because the military-industrial complex, as Eisenhower said, is going to take away your liberties. And so when Dr. Mossadegh in Iran was overthrown in 1953 by the CIA, it was at the behest of an oil company. And you may have heard the news in the past couple of days that a bunch of people connected to Pete Hegseth and his fellow goons, before Israel pushed the United States into starting this war, they purchased a lot of stocks of military-industrial complex and oil companies. So they got insider trading information. And this is in the news. One of them entered even the New York Times. It's that bad.
Yeah.
So that's how selfishness erodes the foundation of civility, of civilization. It is barbaric.
It is. And I want to, this is kind of personal, and so on a deeply personal level. You've spoken before about your vow of service and poverty, and dedicated your life to healing, grandmother Earth, um, and and how that spiritual path has shaped your understanding of democratic power and practice, people power, excuse me, and practice, right? Um, so, and also that you've worked with in mental health, in conflict resolutions. What have you learned about that kind of inner transformation that's needed to sustain like movements for justice, and how that connects? This is something we've been talking about for a while, and you've, of course, you have family there, and I don't know how often you were in contact with them. I'm assuming fairly regular. Have you spoken to them? And I know that's like a
No,
compounded question. There's still no
no, I
communication
haven't.
with your family.
I am quite worried as Tehran is being firebombed by the forces that called themselves civilized and Trump called the Iranians people of the Stone Age, as you may have heard Trump saying that we're going to send them to the Stone Age where they belong. And so, for as far as my family, I'm worried about them, and I don't know whether they're even alive. And I hope they are. I think some of them have moved to a countryside. So I know that one portion of my sister, one of my sister's family is probably safe. But as far as my two of my brothers and my other sister, and then I have, like, I don't know, 200 cousins and second cousins and whatever's. I have no idea how they are. And every morning I wake up dreading. So, but in terms of what inner strength or inner transformation can help a movement, or as I like to call it, a movement of movements, which we need. And this is something that I've developed, as you know, in the form of the chambers of compassion. In terms of inner understanding, and I've arrived at it as a Sufi, and but it's the recognition that we are interconnected not only with every other human being, but also with every planet and every galaxy. We are brothers and sisters. This pen. I'm a poet and a writer, so I deal with the pen literally as well as symbolically. This pen is a distant cousin. It is made of the same stuff that you are made of, I am made of, Brother Alfonso is made of, everybody is made of. Therefore, this pen is, I should love this pen, because when I oppress this pen and nature, I am harming myself, because I'm part of an interconnected system, which then it's symbolized in the form of the butterfly effect that I'm sure your small crowd here is familiar with. So let me tell you one spiritual moment that I had personal. About 3 years ago, or 3.5 years ago, something like that, the 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 bush that is next to my window, I was looking at it, and I was looking at one particular green leaf. At that moment, I guess I had a, I don't know, spiritual experience in which I felt the I felt in an extremely transitory moment that that particular leaf was smiling at me. And at that moment, I realized, oh my God, this leaf is giving me oxygen to breathe. At the same time, this leaf is dependent on the CO2 that comes out of my exhale breath. So then that moment went away, but that moment realized, at that moment, I felt such a unity, indivisible unity with everything in the universe. It was people call it in psychology, which I am a retired psychologist, a transcendental moment. And so in terms of Persian literature, the Iranian nonviolence, which has 1,100 years of a tradition of. There is two. I give you three poems. These are gems of wisdom. One of them is 1,100 years old. The poet is Rudaki of Samarkand, the father of modern Persian language and poetry. In one of his most celebrated poems, Rudaki writes, and I am crudely translating here. Rudaki writes, one day Jesus found the body of a man, a killed man, a man that was dead on a path, on a road. He was bewildered. He asked the dead, Jesus asked the dead, who did you kill so that now you are so miserably fallen onto the earth? And I wonder who is going to kill your killer. So 1,100 years ago, one of my ancestors, Persian ancestors, was talking about the cycle of violence. Then several centuries later, 700 years ago, Rumi, the Sufi poet, he writes, impossible to wash out blood with blood. Impossible. And then 900 years ago, Sadi of Shiraz, which is being bombed as we speak. I hope they don't destroy his mausoleum. He said, and I had to learn this when I was a second grader. I had to memorize this. And he said, children of Adam, members of humanity, are limbs to one body, made from the same sacred jewel, from the same sacred essence. Then Sadi continues and says, when the passage of time brings pain to one limb, other limbs cannot remain in the state of rest and equanimity. Then he switches the language and addresses humans. He says, therefore, you who are unconcerned or indifferent to the suffering of others, it is not proper that you be called a human being. He is beckoning to the highest ethical and moral station which we have the capacity to reach. And he says, if you don't care about the genocide in Gaza, if you don't care about poverty, if you don't care about environmental destruction, if you don't care about massive discrimination against the LGBTQ and brown-skinned people like me, or genocide of Native Americans, if you don't care about this, it's not proper that you be called a human being. So that's part of the kind of, to come back to your question, in terms of personal development, I come from a civilized culture with 7,000 years in the background. And so when somebody like Trump calls us, I'm going to send you to the Stone Ages where you belong, then I was just laughing at that statement coming out of the king of, he is the real king of the Epstein files. And I was, after the gathering in Longmont, I was kicking myself for not saying that, as I said, no kings, I should have said, he is the king of the Epstein files. And they are trying to cover up the fact that Epstein, who was suicided, who was killed, he was an Israeli agent. that was collecting, you know,
I want to
collecting from people, getting them to go and rape young girls in that horrible island in order to force Trump
some believe
to
some
attack
believe
Iran.
on that note, some believe that this attacking of Iran, right, was a
Yep,
distraction for that. You've advocated in the past for reform transformation, not reform change,
right,
not regime change.
right.
And could you unpack that idea for us now in this conversation, and share how it might apply more broadly, or even to movements here in the United States that are trying to transform unjust systems rather than just replacing the leaders?
Exactly.
Um,
Or systems that are inherently violent. If you want to change a system, as Brother Alfonso said, it's an inherently unjust and genocidal system. If you want to change that system violently, then you join the jungle. So you have no choice but to resist it non-violently. Therefore, I say for the case of Iran, and I've summarized it in this, I'll put it in the chat, the link of the National Peace um, and Democracy of Iran. Chat is
and that's
disabled.
something that you started right before um, the
Yeah,
U.S.
about
started bombing Iran.
almost 7 weeks ago. Yeah, it was 3 weeks before the bombing. The chat is disabled. If you can enable me so that I can put it in the chat. But anyhow, the 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 question that right now, and this is something that the Iranians are talking live on Clubhouse application and others, is how can we save Iran in such a way that as we resist internal despotism, we we do not become a tool of external colonialism. And the only way to transform Iran's theocracy is non-violently transformed its constitution. And we are calling for a referendum in which people are asked, do you want the people of Iran in a free and credible, internationally observed referendum would answer this question basically, do you want the current system, or you want some kind of a constitutional monarchy, or you want a secular republic? And obviously, I want a secular republic. And so, but we, the people in Iran, need to make that decision. We don't need a savage called Trump and a genocide maker called Netanyahu to use the son of the Shah, the dictator that overthrew Dr. Mossadegh with the MI6 and CIA on behalf of an oil company. He is saying, bomb Iran so that I can be brought back to power, or I can become the king of Iran. I don't like that, because the only way to transform Iran in such a way that that regime, by its horrible behavior, does not serve the genocide maker in Tel Aviv and the war criminal in Washington. We need to resist internal despotism by resisting also external colonialism, because they are interdependent as enemy currently. Today the Americans have bombed or missiled that, a symbolically important bridge in Iran. And even some monarchists have got pissed. The monarchists were asking the Israelis and Americans to attack Iran. They are going after the life-sustaining infrastructure of Iran, including yet another pharmaceutical plant. So
You're
the way we, the people in this country, again, I want to connect these two because they're not separate. The way we resist, the way to resist the savagery of the military-industrial Zionism complex, Wall Street complex, is to nonviolently build the foundations of democracy, one of the major aspects of which is the We the People Amendment. It's a
going to ask you
nonviolent way.
this.
Okay,
You mentioned this bridge and this infrastructure and the devastating effect it's going to have on the people of Iran, not the leadership of Iran.
right.
And Trump mentioned today that we're not going to be able to pay for Medicaid and Medicare,
Yeah.
or child care. Can't worry about that stuff. That has to go to the states because they're focused on war. And but you sit on the cusp of like the bridges of two worlds, right? As a Iranian born US citizen and living in the United States, have you and I we could get into more of that too, because I want to get to know some of that too, like some maybe a memory from Iran that you remember, a good memory I'd like you to share before we stop. But we're both struggling, right, in both of those worlds, Iran and in the United States, on ways um, with those questions of power and justice and identity. And how you understand that relationship between national transformation and global solidarity, especially given how foreign intervention is justified in the name of democracy. So, just wondering if you can expand on that and how those things, you know, how you're handling that. It could be personal, or you could give a broader stroke. I'll go ahead and turn it back
Okay,
over
let
to
me tell you when I was 7 years old, I'll tell you one story that shaped me into become a Mossaddeghi, i.e. the follower of the nonviolent path of Dr. Mohammad Mossadegh, the Gandhi of Iran, who was overthrown by the CIA and MI6 at the behest of an oil company that is now called BP, and it's sickening. The price of its sickening, uh, on Wall Street, its sickening stock has skyrocketed as a result of the oil infrastructures being hit. So I was 7 years old and I had just gone to primary school, and I think I was in the second grade, I'm not sure. But I had heard the word Mossadegh and I didn't know what it meant. I had heard from another kid, Mossadegh, and I was a curious little kid. And I was like, what does Mossadegh mean? And nobody would answer me, or they were too young to. Well, anyhow, I brought the question home to my dad.
Mhm.
My dad was later on the 16th anniversary of the coup, when I was 11 years old. My dad died, but he had had a heart attack. I said, Dad, what does Mossadegh mean? I remember the blood went out of his face. I don't know how long, how many seconds did he pause before yelling at me at the top of his voice, we in this house do not use that word. And I was like frightened. But what he was doing, he was protecting his family from the Shah's secret police. Mentioning the name Mossadegh was a crime that would make you end up with the secret police in jail and being tortured. So my poor father, he was trying to protect his baby and the rest of his family by shutting me up so that I don't dare to use the word Mossadegh. That's the foundation of despotism. That in today's Iran, there are certain leaders, their name is almost illegal. One of them is called Mir Hossein Mousavi, who has been in house arrest for 15 years because Ahmadinejad, an Israeli agent, I believe, stole his votes in 2009, and his deputy minister the deputy minister of President Khatami is in jail, in Evin prison, in solitary confinement right now, and his name is Mustafa Tajzadeh. He is the Nelson Mandela of Iran. His name can get people in trouble, mentioning his name. So in terms of the terror that people felt under the Shah, I remember that. We were so afraid of the secret police that was trained by the CIA and Mossad. So again, these, sorry if I'm rambling, but these are experiences that have made me into a nonviolent peace activist who understands the savagery of the corporate system that you guys at Move to Amend are trying to resist nonviolently, which is extremely important work.
Yeah, you've worked on you talk about reshaping the Constitution with your work with the NCDCI. Is that right?
National Peace and Democracy Coalition of Iran. Yes.
Right. And where do you see that shared thread between those visions of and participatory democracy here?
Oh boy. Well, one thing that this NPD, whatever, the National Peace and Democracy Coalition of Iran, I am trying to find a nonviolent university base for it. And Eastern Mennonite University, I hope, would base that project for corporations. I want a Christian university. Internet connection is unstable. Are you able to hear me?
It's breaking up a
Were
little.
you able to hear me? Okay. I want a proper Christian university called Eastern Mennonite University with almost a century of anti-war resistance, be the base of the Peace and Democracy Coalition of Iran. And I would love for the Move to Amend to become one of or its first formal organizational sponsor or ally. And so to me, the voice of democracy and peace, which are two sides of the same coin, in Iran are almost identical to what we are dealing with here. Right now, what we are dealing with, because of the corporations corrupting the Supreme Court, the Congress, both houses, as well as this, so-called presidency that we have, these money and immoral savagery, they are interconnected in a system, as Brother Alfonso said. So I'm trying to connect the two. I chose those words when I was on behalf of the peace-seeking Iranian veterans. I chose those words very carefully. National Peace and Democracy Coalition of Iran, in order to show that you cannot transform a despotic system that pretends to be, in the case of that you cannot transform it with violence. you need to do it non-violently, because peace and democracy are two sides of the same coin, and internal despotism and external colonialism are interdependent, especially as enemy. If you want to, since we have just a few people, I would like to sing my Move to Amend song. Do you want me to sing that? And then let's open it up to people's, comments or questions.
Of course, we want to hear it.
Sounds great.
Okay. All right. So, and it's of course, obviously it's a satirical song. I put these lyrics on February 26, 2012, when I was still living in Tucson, Arizona, and I modified it at February 13, 2025 in Boulder, here in Boulder, Colorado. And it's on these lyrics are put on the We Shall Overcome. We shall on person, we shall on person, we shall on person corporations, because we are sane. We do believe corporations are not persons. Money is not a money is not a speech. Money is not a speech. Money is not a speech. Get this into your head, because we are sane. We do believe we shall on dollar a speech. We the people amendment. We the people amendment. We the people shall amend our Constitution, because we are free. We do believe our Constitution is supposed to be free. So that was my satirical.
Beautiful. I've heard it before and I love it every time. Thank you for
Thank
sharing.
you.
That with us.
I see in the chat a beautiful Brian is saying that Daniel Berrigan said something to the effect that the energy expended by any act of testimony or show of support against any form of oppression always goes somewhere, even if you don't see it or feel it in the moment, like the butterfly effect. God bless you. May my God bless your God. That's my Sufi joke, by the way. So yes, absolutely. So let's see whether anyone else of the few people who are here want to share a thought or feeling, or and then we can, or they have questions of me.
Yeah, if you want to just raise your hand or come off mute if you have any questions for Moji.
Boy, I have made
I
everybody
do.
speechless. I was so good, everybody is speechless. I'm joking. Okay, John. Yes, my 87-year-old neighbor or housemate.
All right, John.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
A comment, you mentioned democracy in the sense of what is called representative democracy. All my life, I've had a different opinion. Democracy means we, the people, run the show. And why we humans, I'm obviously specifying humans, is that given climate change and other issues, the rest of the biosphere depends on our behavior.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you can also mute. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? How about Sheila,
Yeah, I
Anna?
think I think he makes a good point.
Absolutely.
And if we were like imagining an ecology democracy, one that really honors the planet, limits and dignity, uh, what would that look like to you?
Well, are you asking me that?
Sure.
Okay. Well, one again, I think in terms of theory and then applied in practice. So in 2012, as you may have heard before, in 2012, with the encouragement of Noam Chomsky, after the fizzling out of the Occupy movement, of which I was a member, and um, the I started a Mossadegh Legacy Institute, and I said then, hi Sandy, I said then, okay, what aspects of the legacy of Dr. Mossadegh I want American people to know about? And it was his nonviolence, because he was in touch with Mahatma Gandhi. And both of them were anti-colonial leaders who understood that if you join in resisting the savagery of colonialism, if you revert to savagery and violence, then you become part of the jungle. So they were nonviolent. And Mossadegh was the only, as far as I know, the only leader of a country in the Islamic world who had political power for a short period of time that was practicing actual nonviolence. So I said, okay, I want to create circles of nonviolence. So in May of 2013, I began a tour of the country in my nonviolence mobile called it was an 1997 Mercury Sable. And so I began a tour called, Mossadegh, teaching people about Dr. Mossadegh and the circles of nonviolence. So as I was traveling and speaking in public libraries organized by the chapters of the Veterans for Peace and other organizations and churches, liberal churches, I I was asked, "Oh, Brother Moji, this sounds cool. So we will sing Kumbaya in these circles of nonviolence." I said, "Well, yes, you can do that, except the purpose of the circles of nonviolence is to organize the civil society so that we, peace activists, environmental activists, human rights activists, democracy activists, social justice activists, anti-corporation fascism activists, and others have a place in each community for them to come together to add to one another's strength." So then I said, okay, I need to add to the circles of nonviolence so that it's not only seen as a civil society movement building, hopefully, that is focused only on peace. So I added the term circles of nonviolence and community collaboratives. Then people said, "Oh, Brother Moji, I'm a Sufi, so I'm called brother. So, Brother Moji, this is too long a title." And they were absolutely correct. So I said, okay, I had to let go of my dear term nonviolence and change the name to the intersectional circles, except that it wasn't catching. Although theoretically it was correct, we are dealing with intersectionality of different issues. Therefore, we need to connect with each other intersectionally. So we add to one another's strength. So I I had to let go of the term nonviolence and then say intersectional circle, except it was too theoretical. It wasn't catching until I finally I said, what institution in the community is doing similar work except with different intent? And then we have chambers of commerce. And so I went in April of 2017 to the Tucson Chamber of Commerce. I lied to a friend that had a little business, a small business, so he was part of the Tucson Chamber of Commerce. I said I lied to him because I wanted to see what the chamber is doing. And so I said to him, I'm thinking I've created 3 501c3 nonprofits so far. I want to create a for-profit consulting business. He said, "Oh, welcome, welcome, welcome." He immediately invited me to the next breakfast meeting of the Tucson Chamber of Commerce. There I found, eating delicious breakfast, that the Chamber of Commerce of Tucson, in collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the chamber in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and other chambers, they were collaborating and they were raising gobs of money for 2 purposes. One, to hire lobbyists to send to the city councils and county boards of supervisors, and in the case of Southern Arizona, 1 school district, to hire lobbyists to push the so-called right to work laws. I'm sure you guys know about the Orwellianly named right to work laws. So these chambers of commerce were working collaboratively and geographically in order to hire lobbyists to go lobby members of the city councils and the county boards of supervisors and a school district board. The other reason they were raising money from huge corporations as well as local businesses was to hire campaign workers to support the campaigns of the chamber-approved candidates. Okay, so I said, oh my God, no wonder they are so successful, because they are, regardless of the differences in their different industries, they are working together systemically and geographically. So I said, okay, how about if we call chambers of, the circles of nonviolence and community collaboratives, which then by that time I was using intersectional circles. I said, how about if we call them chambers of compassion, in order to provide the infrastructure for systemic collaboration across industries. I heard somebody saying something.
Yeah, I said I love that. I love
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. So that's how I translate at the level of application, a theory that Noam Chomsky and Cornel West and Erica Chenoweth and other champions of compassion have advocated, that we need to organize, but we need to organize our compassions systemically and effectively. Otherwise, we will have monsters like Trump continue. Although he may not be, the next president may not be as crazy, as narcissistic as he is, but it's a system that needs to be transformed, and it needs to be transformed from inside, non-violently.
Absolutely. And that culture shift, right? A culture change, that living from an extractive corporate culture to one that is grounded in, service and spirituality or connectedness. And but I was just repeating the chambers of compassion with somebody recently. So I want to open it up again. If anybody else has any more questions for Moji.
And Sandy came in, although late, but
Great to see you, Sandy.
if you want to share some thoughts or feelings or questions.
Katie Stack.
I'll just wait.
Or Katie, okay.
Yes. So I've been in spaces with you on Zoom a few times, and I just want to say I really have appreciated tonight and reading your bio that you shared. What a fantastic voice you have, and how wonderful the connections you've made. And thank you for being a supporter of We the People Amendment and being here with us.
Thank you.
I'm making a meme right now for social media with some of the things that you've said. So very inspiring.
Thank you. One thing, by the way, I really need help. I am clueless technologically, and I need help from you. You sound younger than I, maybe much younger, but I need help, Katie. Help me so that I can be the voice of the voiceless.
Yeah. I'm learning to work with social media, and I'm definitely not young,
Okay,
but I will love to help you any way I can.
wonderful.
I'm figuring out a few things here and there.
Thank you. Also, the other thing that you and others who are hearing me or may hear later, I don't know whether this is being, I don't think it's being recorded, but
Yes, it is.
if you could talk to your churches, hopefully liberal churches in your community or civil society organizations, to say there is this crazy voice of an Iranian Sufi monk with a vow of poverty and service. So that people can begin. I'm not advocating for myself. I'm saying that I really feel I need to be the voice of the voiceless. So you can help introduce what I'm trying to do for people to hear me live, because I've been told when I speak live, somebody said you are very charismatic. I said, forget about charismatic. I'm afraid of the term because of the abuse of charisma by corrupt forces of money and power and deception. But anyhow, people say, people need to hear you. And I say, okay, then, help, provide a platform for my voice
Brother
to be
Moji, thank
heard.
you so much for sharing your wisdom and your heart with us tonight. Your journey does remind us that democracy is not just a political project, right? It's
Right.
a spiritual and ecological one too. So thank you so much, and for everybody that was able to be here, and anybody that's going to watch this later. Y'all have a
Thank
wonderful
you so
night.
much. Woohoo.